Hello everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we are talking about an issue that affects people with oily skin, dry skin, whether it be summer, winter, the other seasons, and that's patchy skin. I'm gonna tell you how to fix that and how to prevent it today. It is an incredibly frustrating situation when you feel you have done everything you can do to stop patchiness occurring, whether that's prepping the skin, using the right products, finishing up correctly. Don't worry, we will get to the point today. I'm gonna point out a few things that could be causing this so you can use them at your own will and experiment and see how to stop it. But most importantly, I'm gonna tell you how to fix it. So get ready to say goodbye to uneven coverage and hello to smooth-ish, airbrushed-ish skin. Skin's real, right? It's never gonna be completely perfect. Okay, so let's start with tip number 1, skincare. There's a few different reasons why skincare could be messing up your foundation, and in some cases, not enough skincare, but we need to experiment with the two. So it all has to start with prepping your skin before you even think about applying your foundation. One of the things I absolutely despise when it comes to prepping the skin and the way people use skincare is squirting product onto the face, dripping it onto the face. It's unmanageable, you're not aware of how much you're using, it's wasteful. If you want to drop it on the face, start with one drop of whatever it is on the middle of the face and gently start to blend it out. You will find that in most cases, one drop is enough for your whole face instead of doing 3 separate areas with a lot of product. Now, why this is important is because sometimes over prepping your skin can cause the breakdown of this foundation. There's a point where your skin is gonna be like, you know what, I don't need all this shit. And it's gonna kind of like reject it. Not always, but in that moment. And then now you have this barrier of skincare and ingredients in between your foundation and your skin. And what is your foundation gonna do if it can't grip onto your skin or grip onto a primer? It's gonna kind of like melt away with all those skincare ingredients. Use a small amount at a time, allow your skin to absorb the foundation, do what it needs to do, whatever skin does. My second tip is primer and not necessarily using it. I always say primers are for extreme cases, extremely dry, extremely oily, then go ahead and use a primer on that day. You know what I mean? Our skin can sometimes be temperamental and it can change day to day. Your skincare and your primer can be the same thing. A basic hyaluronic acid based serum makes excellent primers because it makes the skin nice and bouncy, it smooths out the skin, it makes it plump, it just makes a perfect canvas. And ideally what we want to do when foundation is breaking down is use as little product underneath our foundation as possible. My next tip, the tool that you are using. A lot of the time people find with a damp beauty blender that their foundation doesn't quite go on as well when any kind of water from the beauty blender gets involved with a foundation. If you're going to use a beauty blender, a beauty sponge, anything you have to dampen before or anything you want to dampen before you use your foundation, make sure that sponge is fully wrung out. The point in the beauty blender being damp is so it can puff up and so it becomes spongy and it gets that bounce. It's not so it can be wet. I would highly recommend squeezing that beauty blender in a towel, just like this, to get out all that water. Make sure none of it is going to congeal with your foundation and ruin the formula of the foundation. In some cases as well, some brushes can actually just drag your foundation around the skin. So things like flat foundation brushes, some stippling brushes, if you're not using them correctly, you're kind of giving yourself an uneven layer of foundation, moving everything around, and some patches can occur where perhaps you haven't given enough thought and enough time to that area. You can never go wrong with a powder brush for foundation. You can use it for liquid, you can use it for powder, you can use it for creams, you can use it for like thick creams. This way what you can do is kind of, I have one right here, tap onto the face like this. You're kind of pushing the product into the skin and making sure that it's becoming part of your skin. Again, don't squeeze your foundation everywhere. Do a tiny bit on the back of a hand, take a little bit at a time and really work that foundation into the face. We don't want layers sitting on top of our skin. So a layer of foundation, just like we don't want a layer of skincare, a layer of foundation isn't that helpful or useful. Work it into the skin, make it become part of your skin, you know? You're gonna wash it off later, hopefully. And it's not just sitting on top like a layer. If you can do this and your foundation comes off, you haven't worked it in enough. Talking about foundation, less is more. We often make a mistake of applying way too much foundation. If that's from plumping it on the face, or if something is full coverage, we tend to use more for some reason, thinking it will give us more coverage when it's already a full coverage. However, pilling on those layers can actually contribute to the patchiness of your foundation. So start with the smallest amount, like I said, build up gradually, focusing on those areas that need more coverage, coverage. The center of her face tends to be the hot spot for everyone, where it's a little bit of redness on the nose and the cheeks. Start on the center of her face with more product and work that product outwards to kind of fade out as we get to the hairline. I don't mean it stops here and it's gone, but we're using less product around the hairline, around the jawline and down to the neck, wherever you take your foundation. You can always add more, but once you're done, you can't really take away unless you want to take the whole thing off and start again. Powder. Let's talk about powder. The powders you can be using can be contributing to the pilling. I prefer really smooth powders that are finely jet milled. They tend to look a little bit smoother. The only thing with that is you really need to work it into the skin. Otherwise, in pictures, it looks like, you know, when all the celebrities look like they've taken a load of drugs. It looks like that sometimes, but you just make sure you really blend it in. If you are using too much powder on top of a foundation that you haven't really pushed into the skin, it's got water from your beauty blender in, you're kind of creating this texture that almost separates from the skin and starts to get that separation. Oatmeal, cottage cheese, scrambled eggs. You know, that kind of, if you're using a puff, make sure it's really pushed into the skin. You don't want, again, a layer. It's all about layers and make sure we don't have too many. Alternatively, you don't have to use powder. If anything on your face creases or gets like textured, try not using powder for a day and just see the difference. It might help. In terms of repairing patchiness when it happens, there's two things you can do. You can take a hydrating mist around with you and a beauty blender and just hydrate your whole face, give it a few minutes and tap that foundation back into place. It's not gonna look perfect, but it's gonna hydrate all the products that are kind of like getting all mushy and horrible. In my opinion, the best thing to do is to find a mineral powder, a pressed mineral-based powder that is your skin tone, not necessarily a foundation powder, but one that has a little bit of coverage, that is your shade, and that is your touch-up powder. Something about mineral powders, they just glide effortlessly on top of skin texture. I always remember the time I was doing prom makeup for someone, and she has spent the whole day before in the sun trying to get a tan, and it kind of just turned out to be redness, and her skin was peeling all along her hairline. Should we have put makeup on top of that? Absolutely not. Did she want to because it was her big day, it was prom, she'd been waiting for this for years? Yes, we did. So I used, it was MAC Mineralized Skin Finish at that time in her shade, and we just did quite a heavy dusting of that powder over the top of all that texture. The skin peeling off the dry skin, and it looked flawless. And I have used that technique throughout my times doing weddings, brides, touch-ups, on whoever it may be, and it has worked flawlessly. So if patchiness is a big thing for you, I hope those methods help you out. Remember, it's gonna take a little bit of experimenting, see what products do work. Do I use less skincare? Do I use more? But you have time, just in a week, you know, a day use less skincare, and one day use more. Don't use powder, do use powder to get these results. So don't get discouraged. Have a little bit of patience with yourself and you will never have to deal with patchiness again. Trust me. Don't know what that was. If you have any techniques that you've learned along your way, because all our skin is different and we all learn different things, leave them down below. I would love to help other people out with your personal experiences. Thank you so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.